Coming up next on the news, the latest information on Amtrak's 50th anniversary modernization. The battle between Canadian National and Canadian Pacific over Kansas City Southern is finally over as CP has bought the railroad for an astonishing $31 billion. Alan Shaw is to be the next Norfolk Southern CEO once Jim Squires retires in May of 2022, plus the railroad's record-breaking third quarter earnings. And plus, the USS Cod sits in Cleveland, Ohio after being overhauled in Erie, PA back in August. All this and more, all next on the news. And now, from Studio A, here is your news anchor, Mr. Choo Choo Ben. Alrighty, foamers and foamettes, welcome to this special Christmas edition and also 200 subscriber edition of the Choo Choo Ben Newsminute. For those of you who have absolutely no common sense whatsoever and don't know who I could possibly be talking to you on your screen right now, well, I am Choo Choo Ben, bringing you the latest in railroading and world news. I hope you viewers are having a safe, merry, and white Christmas. I know I sure am, but it isn't very white for me. In fact, I have to cut the grass tomorrow now that I think about it. And for those of you little children who are staying up watching for Santa, hopefully me talking for a half hour plus will keep you awake for just a little bit. And one more thing, for the foamers who are trying to catch a heritage due on some stupid intermodal train at this time of night, I better not hear you screaming if you do see it, or I'm going to press charges on you for neighborhood disturbance. That was violent. Now, before I get into the news, I have a few points I must make. First one, and I completely forgot to put this into the script, so I'm doing this completely impromptu right now. I've recently been thinking about having potential co-anchor, field reporters, weather person, come on here and do reports for me on various things. And, kind of show yourself on camera, hold the little microphone in your hand, and read off the story that I want you to broadcast, whatever. However that works. If you're interested in doing that, go ahead and send an email to choochoobenteam@gmail.com. We'll talk it out, and hopefully you'll be on camera within the next News Minute. It'd be really nice to have somebody reporting for me so I don't have to talk, because right now as I'm recording this, I'm just coming off of my second case of laryngitis of the year, and I'm kind of straining my voice right now. You can tell, but yeah. I would also like to mention the Nevada Northern Railway. I've recently received a couple letters from you guys about the restoration of some old rare locomotives, and most recently about how you guys got a steam engine fully running after having not moved in over 60 plus years. Wow. I must tell you, that is very impressive, and while I may not be able to donate to you at this moment, I just want to congratulate you guys on the amount of success that you've had this year. Excuse me. Also, I'd like to give a brief shout out to another one of these locomotive rolling stock restoration teams that is actually much closer to my home, Midwest Rail Preservation in Cleveland. I recently took a full-fledged tour of their facility, and I must say it's one of the coolest places I've been to in a while. There's a huge variety of equipment, and I was able to get so many pictures and videos of the shop and the yard, etc. Even better, the staff is incredibly friendly and open about their operation. I believe they have a Facebook page and a website. I'll put those in the description. Now, let's get to the news. Our top story tonight, back on December 14th, Canadian Pacific Railway announced that it's completed its acquisition of Kansas City Southern Railway after the Surface Transportation Board declined its opponent Canadian National's offer to buy the railroad, as there would have been an overlap of track in Louisiana that would cause a disturbance in transportation of goods between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. Canadian Pacific made a payment of around $31 billion for the railroad, with KCS stockholders receiving 2.884 CP common shares valued at about $90 cash per KCS common shares held, and $37.50 cash for KCS preferred stock held. The shares of KCS will be put into a voting trust following the closing of the deal, with former president of KCS Dave Starling appointed as voting trustee. The voting trust ensures that KCS can operate independently under CP, and it will remain in effect until the STB makes a decision on the Joint Railroad Control application. If this application is approved, it will ultimately create the Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railroad, or CPKC for short. The STB's review of this is expected to be finished by the fourth quarter of 2022. Current president and CEO of CP and Railway Age's Railroader of the Year in 2021, Keith Grille, says, quote, "Today is a historic day for our two iconic railroad companies. CPKC will become the backbone connecting our customers to new markets, enhancing competition in the U.S. rail network, and driving economic growth across North America, while delivering significant environmental benefits. We are excited to reach this milestone on the path towards creating this unique, truly North American railroad." Current president and CEO of KCS, Patrick J. Ottensmeyer, says, quote, "We are excited for the possibilities that will open to us through this combination with CP, and we look forward to our next chapter," end quote. The original due date for comments on the environmental impacts of CPKC was actually my channel's birthday, December 17th, but those have been pushed to January 3rd, 2022, and no more extensions will be granted. Amtrak has temporarily dropped its vaccine mandate for all employees, citing concerns over service cuts that would have been bound to happen next month. As an alternative, CEO Bill Flynn said employees could opt into weekly testing for the virus. About 97% of the company has received a shot or, quote, some kind of accommodation providing exemptions, per the New York Times. It was originally predicted that a 5% workforce cut would happen by January 4th had this change not been implemented. The company will be updating The company will be updating its vaccine policies as needed, and those who fail to comply will be put on unpaid leave. President of Rail Passengers Association Jim Matthews said that he would prefer the whole company be vaccinated, but they have made substantial progress thus far. And I'm sure many of you are aware that President Joe Biden is currently kissing Amtrak's behind, as they were recently gifted $66 billion for improvements to their Northeast Corridor and a whole fleet modernization. Happy freaking birthday to you. Out of that $66 billion, $150 million is going to be spent on repairing the infamous bottleneck tunnels between New Jersey and New York Penn. Not only that, Bill Flynn also stepped down from his position as CEO after leading Amtrak through its biggest crisis in 50 years, Corona freaking virus. Now it is the turn of railroad veteran Stephen Gardner, who has been with the railroad since the early 1990s, to continue the plans to modernize the fleet and expand its service big time. We're going to take a look into the fleet, which is bound to be most, if not all, Siemens mobility equipment by the early to mid-2030s. Here we go. It's reported that the new fleet will be delivered in 3 phases between 2024 and 2030, although I believe that there's more phases than that, as there's already Siemens equipment on the rails now. The first phase to me was the delivery of the ACS 64 City Sprinters, and since I just now said that off the top of my head and didn't put it in the script, I don't know what year that was, but between that time and the delivery of the SC44 Chargers, that would be my personal first phase. My second personal phase would be 2020 until now, with the delivery of the Alstom Avelia Liberty Acela train sets, which are still being delivered and tested. Not only those, but more recently, the first of the ALC-42s being delivered and tested. The next phase, per RunawayGirl, is 2024 to 2025, in which they'll replace the iconic Cascades train sets with diesel-only trains on the service. That should boost passenger capacity by about 10%, or 1.5 million humans compared with 2019. Next is 2025 until 2029, which is predicted to see all Amfleet and maybe even Horizon equipment replaced by Siemens Venture Crap and dual-mode ALC-42E locomotives and cab cars. Not only will those see their demise, but the still new ACS-64s will see complete dinosaur extinction by the end of this phase, being replaced with the dual-mode diesel-electric ALC-42Es. This will leave the Acela to be the only real electric catenary trains to operate on the Northeast Corridor. The final phase from 2029 to 2030 sees the P-32 ACDMs being violently derailed off the face of the Earth, which uses third rail supply on the Empire service and diesel fuel everywhere else, being replaced by none other than the ALC-42E. Wahoo! Except the Empire E's are going to run on batteries and not on third rail. The batteries will also serve as head-end power, as it will provide power to the venture cars behind the locomotives. As for the rest of the E's and the regular ALC-42s, they are diesel-electric and diesel respectively. Rumor has it you may be able to see some ALCs with the catenary thingies on them on the Northeast Corridor, but I'm not exactly sure of that. We'll just have to wait and see once everything is delivered. Alrighty, we're going to take a brief break from the trains here. We're going to go to everyone's favorite segment, which is the weather, but unfortunately, meteorologist John Handpuppet is out sick, so he will not be joining us. So your favorite segment is now your least favorite. Cool. Anyways, I don't exactly know about the rest of the world. All I know is that Ohio is not going to be having a white Christmas. So let's look at our current conditions here. It's raining right now in northeastern Ohio. I think Mother Nature forgot to throw the snowy solution before she let the rains precipitate. So, yeah. Anyways, here's tomorrow's forecast for Christmas Day. Looking for some rain early in the morning, which will lighten up in the afternoon, only to become slightly heavier in the evening. We're going to have a high of 51 and a low of 33 there. Sunday, early morning clouds, maybe some fog, although that's highly unlikely. Those clouds will eventually produce rain in the afternoon with highs of 40 and a low of 34. Monday will be a bit warmer, mostly cloudy with a 63% chance of rain and a high of 49. Looking for similar conditions overnight into Tuesday, and we'll have a low of 36. Coming into Tuesday, we'll have snow and rain in the morning with even more rain at night, and a high of 50 and a low of 36. Despite having underperformed compared to other Class 1 railroads in 2021, Norfolk Southern has broken multiple records regarding quarterly earnings. In third quarter 2021, Norfolk Southern drove their operating ratios up 14%, or $346 million, compared to the same period last year. However, expenses are up 3%, or $50 million, though there was an impairment charge sprouting from an equity method investment, which was $99 million. Excluding that charge, expenses are actually up 10%, or $149 million, compared to the same period last year. The first of two records broken is the income from railway operations, which is up an astonishing 35%, or $296 million. Excluding the impairment charge, they are up only 21%, or $197 million. Finally, the operation ratio is down to 60.2%, and an improvement of 630 basis points. And without the impairment charge, that's only 230 points. So in reality, despite crew shortages and a shopping list of other problems, Norfolk Southern did really well financially, and hopefully the fourth quarter will be just as good. We'll see in January. Also, CEO Jim Squires announced he is stepping down from his position, and Chief Marketing Officer Alan Shaw will be taking over on May 1st of 2022. It is reported that in his time, Squires has increased shareholder values by well over $30 billion. He also led the railroad through the pandemic and freight recessions, moved company headquarters to Atlanta, and also implemented PSR. Yes, guilty as charged. But other than PSR, he was an incredible leader. Having taken his seat in 2015, he served NS and the economy for 6 years and has done a wonderful job at keeping them afloat during these trying times. He says that this is a perfect time for a change in leadership as the railroad is in a rock-solid position financially. Could you imagine that? Also, this just in, NS has expanded their order of AC-44 C6M locomotives for 2021 from 100 to 125 units, with the first 9 having already been delivered and a few more planned by 2022. Units 4527 through 4530 and units 4532, 34, 35, 37, and 38 are already in regular service on NS as of Tuesday, and we expect to see more being delivered as the year comes to a close. Well, coming up after the break, the USS Cod is dry docked in Erie, Pennsylvania and undergoes a major overhaul. Plus, a look into the many new concepts for alternative fueled locomotives that railroads across America and Canada have come up with. Also, instead of ads during these breaks, I'm going to be doing shoutouts. These shoutouts will consist of people who left comments or did something that I feel should be publicized, or consists of businesses and companies who just need a little help advertising. So with that said, stay tuned and we'll be right back after the break. This is breaking news. Welcome back. CSX closed its Tilford yard in Atlanta, Georgia back in 2018. CEO Jim Foote said, quote, "Atlanta hump yard today is flat. There is no turning back." However, news recently broke out that Tilford Yard will indeed be reopening in the coming year, and a lot of progress has already been made on laying down tracks, etc. Yeah, I knew that wouldn't take long, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. It is reported that CSX will be building a transflow center on a portion of the old yard, which was one of 7 hump yards idled during the implementation of PSR back in the years of 2017 and 2018. A CSX spokeswoman says, quote, "To better serve our customers and help alleviate congestion in the supply chain, CSX will be expanding our transflow operations by adding a 3rd location in the greater Atlanta area at our Tilford yard. The facility is said to be opening in January and will handle the transfer of dry goods between train and truck. Not only this, but Amazon is said to have purchased 158 acres of the yard and will be putting it to use. We're not exactly sure what they will do with it. I've heard many rumors on what it will end up being used for, but I'm not going to say anything because it will cause an unnecessary stir, number 1, and number 2, those rumors will most likely end up being untrue, so we're just going to kind of move on. Back in June, the USS Cod was sent to Erie, Pennsylvania to undergo extensive repairs to her undercarriage. During her 2 months in dry dock, the warship received a new paint job, metal removal, a hull sandblasting, etc. She returned to Cleveland on August 18th, and a mini party was held to celebrate the return of this historical landmark. I talked to my father, who served in the Navy as a sonar technician, about the overhaul, and he was overjoyed that she finally received one. Finally, tonight, Class 1 railroads throughout America and Canada have spent years trying to find trains that are cleaner and safer for the environment, and they might be finally finding success in doing it. Canadian Pacific has taken several of their EMD ST40-2Fs and are currently converting them into hydrogen-powered locomotives. One engine will be making a special debut before the end of the year, in which it will run under its own power for the first time. Then by next year, several more will be released from Calgary, Alberta to undergo testing for reliability and, more importantly, environmental impact. BNSF Railway is also looking at hydrogen-powered locomotives and also Wabtec and Progress Rail battery-powered ones. Canadian National also has plans to test out battery-powered locomotives for freight service, as well as Union Pacific for yard service, quote, once they become more widely available. All railroads have announced that these are only tests and that alternate fuels will not replace standard locomotives for several years minimum. Turning back to Canadian Pacific, they were recently granted $15 million to put into the hydrogen program, so more hydrogen units can be produced and tested. Well, my friends, that is going to do it for this edition of the News Minute. I really hope this was worth the wait, because I had so many requests to do this, because the last time I did one was over a year ago. I mean, I would do these more often if it didn't take so much blood, sweat, tears, and effort to put them together. All the credits are in the description and will be shown on screen once I sign off here. But before I go, I want to give you something to think about. Remember that it is Christmas and soon to be New Year's. Remember what Christmas is all about. The presents, Santa, Jesus' birth, and more importantly, the get-together of family and friends and the bringing of peace into the world. Not only that, but the bringing of love into the world. Kids, please do me a favor. Go to your mom and go to your dad, give them a big Christmas hug, and tell them that you love them. 'Cause you know something? They have your back unconditionally. Go to your friends. Give them a hug or dab them up if you're one of those. Tell them that you love them and you got their backs. Because they especially got your back if they're your friend. Parents, adults, go to your friends, your co-workers, or other acquaintances. Give them a hug and tell them that you love them and that you have their back. Because in this world, in these trying times, with all of this social unrest, we need friendship more than ever before. We need love more than ever before. And if we can all just give each other that reassurance that we are there for them, most of our social problems can be solved. And we can finally achieve some sense of peace and love in this country. Good night. This is Bad Droid speaking for the Choo Choo Ben Newsminute, a trademark of Choo Choo Ben Productions. All credits go to their respectful owners and will be listed in the description. This program is protected under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, which allows for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Follow us on Instagram at Choo Choo Ben Productions and subscribe to us using the little red button below on your screen. Also check out our website, which will be listed in the description. Choo Choo Ben 8 is also a trademark of Choo Choo Ben Productions. This program has been edited for broadcast.